You smell the cold, damp air of the stone house in Capernaum. It is past midnight. The moon is high over the Sea of Galilee, but the streets are silent. Inside, the only light comes from a single oil lamp, its flame flickering against the rough walls. You are sitting on the floor, tucked into the shadows of the corner. You are not one of the crowds. You did not come for the bread or the wine or the miracles. You came for the words. The man in the center of the room leans forward. His voice is barely a whisper, yet it fills the space with the weight of 1,000 storms. He looks at the 12 men around him, then his eyes drift to you. He says things that would get him stoned in the synagogue. He talks about a father who does not need temples, a father who does not demand blood, a father who is closer to you than your own breath. You realize in that moment that everything you were told before was just the outer shell. Now, the man is peeling it away, and once you see what is inside, you can never go back to the shell again. The Bible itself admits it in Mark chapter 4, verse 34. When the crowds left, Jesus took the 12 behind closed doors and told them the things he would not dare say in public. Think about that for a second. He explained everything. Listen, I have spent 20 years digging through archives, but this one still gives me chills. My name is Nathan, and for over a decade, I taught history at a Catholic high school in Indiana. I thought I knew the book. I thought I knew the syllabus. But then I came across that single verse in the Gospel of Mark, tucked away like a confession they forgot to erase. The Greek word used there implies a systematic, private instruction, a hidden syllabus. It means there was a public Jesus for the masses and a private Jesus for the inner circle. And the things he told the inner circle, they were fundamentally different. They were dangerous. When I first realized this, I had to put the book down. I went to the school chaplain and asked him, what did he tell them behind those closed doors? He looked at me with this tired smile and said, Nathan, do not go looking for mysteries where there are not any. It was just more of the same. But I knew he was lying, or maybe he just did not know. Because if it was more of the same, why keep it secret? Why hide it in the shadows of a stone house in the middle of the night? J.J. Benítez spent 40 years trying to answer that question. And what he found, what the Gnostic scrolls found in 1945, is that Jesus was not building a religion. He was trying to tear one down. Picture this scene. Jesus is sitting with Peter, John, and the others. They ask him about the God of the Old Testament, the God who demands sacrifice, the God who strikes down his enemies, the God of the law. Jesus shakes his head. He speaks of the blue Father, the Father of all light. He tells them that the creator of this material world is not the ultimate God. He says that within each of you is a spark of the true, infinite light. A piece of the blue Father that can never be lost, never be judged, and never be broken. You look at your hands, you have always felt like a sinner, a failure, someone who needed to pay a price to be loved. But the man in the shadows tells you that is a lie. He says you do not need a priest to talk to the Father. You do not need a building to find the kingdom. You are the building. You are the priest. And the price has already been paid. Not in blood, but in existence. It took me years to wrap my head around that. As a history teacher, I was taught that the church was the successor. But when you look at the Nag Hammadi scrolls, discovered in Egypt back in 1945, you see a different story. Take the Gospel of Thomas, for example. Saying number 77, Jesus says, lift the stone, and I am there. Split the wood, and I am there. Think about what that means for the people who spent billions of dollars building cathedrals. If the divine is in the wood and the stone, why do we need the Vatican? Why do we need the golden altars? The church suppressed the Gospel of Thomas for 1600 years because it makes the institution irrelevant. If Jesus is in the stone under your feet, the building becomes a cage. Bart Ehrman, a scholar I have followed for years, points out that the early Christian world was a battlefield of ideas. There were dozens of different versions of Jesus, but the version that won was the one that could be used to control people. The one that said, obey the priest. The secret Jesus, the one Benítez describes and the scrolls confirm, said something much more radical. He said, obey the light within you. He spoke of the adjuster, a divine pilot living inside your mind. This is not just Gnostic mysticism, it is a direct challenge to every power structure on Earth. You have spent your whole life walking into those massive cold buildings. You look up at the stained glass, you hear the organ, you feel small, insignificant, like a tiny ant in a giant hive. They told you that was awe. They told you that feeling of smallness was the beginning of wisdom. But now, standing in that quiet house in Capernaum, you realize it was something else. It was intimidation. The man in front of you does not want you to feel small. He wants you to feel infinite. He tells you that the kingdom is not a place you go when you die. It is a state of being you enter while you are alive. He calls it gnosis, direct knowledge. Not faith in what someone else tells you, but knowing what you have discovered for yourself. You feel a knot in your throat. For the first time in your life, you realize that the search was not for a God out there. It was for the God you have been carrying inside you since the moment you were born. I remember a meeting I had back in Indiana. It was a closed-door session with the school board and the diocese. We were discussing the curriculum for the senior theology class. I wanted to include a week on the Gnostic discoveries, just a week, to show the students that there were other voices in the early church. The bishop's representative looked at me across the table. He did not argue facts. He did not say the scrolls were fake. He just said, "Nathan, that is not the story we are telling. It confuses the mission." In that moment, I realized that the mission was not truth. The mission was a unified narrative, a brand. And that is exactly what happened in the 4th century. The Council of Nicaea was not about finding God. It was about finding a story that could hold the Roman Empire together. They took the private teachings, the hidden syllabus, and they buried it. They turned the Blue Father into a judge. They turned the inner spark into original sin. They took the man who told you you are the light and turned him into a sacrificial lamb. But they could not get rid of Mark chapter 4, verse 34. They left that little breadcrumb behind. He explained everything in private. What did he explain? He explained that you are a Tecton. We translate that as carpenter. But in the 1st century, a Tecton was more than that. It was an artisan, an engineer, someone who understands the structure of things. The word is used in ancient texts for people who work with metal, stone, and even shipbuilders. It implies a level of technical skill that suggests Jesus was not just a poor laborer. He was an educated artisan. Jesus spent his 18 silent years traveling. Some say he went to the east. Some say he studied in the great libraries of Egypt. Benítez suggests he was a man of immense education, a man who understood the laws of the universe. And he was not trying to start a new law. He was trying to show us the source code. Think about the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. For centuries, she was branded a prostitute, a fallen woman. But the scrolls found at Nag Hammadi tell a different story. In her Gospel, she is the one who understands the secret teachings. She is the one Peter is jealous of. Peter says, "Did the Lord really speak privately with a woman and not openly with us?" And Levi answers him, "Peter, if the Lord made her worthy, who are you to reject her?" Mary describes a vision where Jesus teaches her about the 7 powers of the mind. How to overcome fear, how to overcome desire, how to return to the Father without a mediator. The male disciples could not handle it. The church could not handle it. So they turned the apostle to the apostles into a whore. And they turned the secret of the 7 powers into exorcising 7 demons. It is a brilliant piece of character assassination. But the truth is still there, between the lines. Jesus was not just talking to men, he was not just talking to Jews. He was talking to anyone who had ears to hear. And what he was saying was that the gender, the race, and the status of the body do not matter. Only the quality of the light within matters. You have always felt it, have you not? That nagging feeling that the rituals were empty, that the words spoken from the pulpit did not match the fire in your heart. You sat in those pews, nodding your head, while your soul was screaming to be somewhere else, in the woods, by the ocean, in the quiet of your own room. They told you that was a temptation. They told you that was your ego trying to lead you away from God. But standing in that room in Capernaum, listening to the man whisper in the dark, you realize it was something else. It was a memory of the Blue Father, a memory of a time before the cages were built. You are not away from God when you are alone. That is when you are finally close enough to hear Him. The truth does not need a building to protect it. It does not need a budget. It does not need a hierarchy. It just needs you to stop being afraid of your own light. I will let you sit with that for a moment, because it is a lot to take in. If you have been raised in the tradition, this sounds like heresy. I know. I have been there. I lost my job over this. I lost friends. I had people in my parish stop talking to me because I started asking these questions. But here is the thing. Once you see the hidden syllabus, the official version feels like a children's book. It is not that the Bible is fake. It is just that it is the public version. It is the press release. Mark chapter 4 verse 34 is the leak. It is the indication that there is a deeper reality waiting for those who are willing to go behind closed doors. J.J. Benítez spent his life pointing us toward those doors. He was not trying to destroy anyone's faith. He was trying to save it from the people who turned it into a business. The Blue Father is real. The kingdom within is real. The question is, are you ready to stop listening to the crowds and start listening to the whisper? I cannot answer that for you. Nobody can. That is the whole point of the secret teaching. The secret is not a piece of information. The secret is an experience, and that experience is yours and yours alone. When I first read about the adjuster in the work of J.J. Benítez, I went out for a walk in the Indiana woods. It was a gray, overcast day, the kind of day that usually makes you feel a bit depressed. But I sat on a fallen log, and I remembered that verse from Thomas, "Split the wood and I am there." I looked at the bark, I looked at the moss, and for the first time in 50 years, I did not feel like a member of a church. I felt like a part of the universe. I did not need to pray. I did not need to say the words. I just needed to be. And that, I believe, is what Jesus was trying to tell the 12 in the dark. He was telling them that the end of the world is not a disaster. It is the end of the illusion of separation. It is the moment you realize that there is no out there. There is only the Blue Father, and you are His child, forever, without condition. Wait, there is one more thing, something I almost forgot. In saying 42 of the Gospel of Thomas, there is a two-word teaching. Just 2 words. Be passers-by. Think about that. Do not get attached to the building. Do not get attached to the law. Do not get attached to the fear. Just pass through, keep moving, keep searching. The destination is not a place, it is the traveler. You are the traveler, and the road is the Blue Father. If Jesus was a master artisan of the soul, then you are His greatest work. Not a broken piece of wood that needs to be discarded, but a masterpiece in progress. That changes everything, does it not? It takes the guilt and throws it out the window. It takes the shame and replaces it with purpose. You are a work of the Blue Father, and the Master told His closest friends that the work is already finished. We just have not realized it yet. Listen, the Gospel of Thomas was buried for 1600 years. The Gospel of Mary was torn and scattered, but they were found. Why now? Why in our lifetime? Maybe because we have finally reached the point where the cages cannot hold us anymore. Maybe because the Blue Father is calling His children home, and He is using the very texts they tried to burn to do it. The private teaching is now public. The hidden syllabus is sitting on your screen. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep praying to a judge you are afraid of? Or are you going to start talking to the Father who loves you without reason? The secret is not that you are bad and need to be saved. The secret is that you are divine and just forgot. Go find your spark. I will be here if you need to talk. I have been Nathan. This has been Forbidden Gospels. The truth is out there, but it is also in here. I will let you sit with that. You decide what to do with this. Good night, Evansville. Good night to whoever is listening. I will see you in the next investigation. You decide.